There's a moment where you can't go back, even if you try. Your life still looks the same on the outside, but inside, something has shifted. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Welcome to Shelby Radio. I am Shelby Carino, and this is episode number 736, and we are going to have an important conversation today about the moment your old life stops making sense. This is a strong topic out here in the awakening community. It's a topic that you may have heard people talk about, and you also may be hearing this topic for the first time because this is something that not everyone likes to discuss in spiritual awakening. And the reason why is because this is kind of the truthful side to awakening, is it not? A lot of times when we're undergoing a transition process in ourselves, we search for answers, yet we organically want to hear all of the good stuff. We put ourselves in the dream or the illusion or all of that positive feel-good information because something inside of us as a human doesn't really like to hear the harder truths when we're undergoing a process. And yet, in a spiritual awakening process, when the moment your old life stops making sense, this is not the time for rainbows and unicorns and chocolate chip cookies and all of the things, because this is the time where you need the education of what this truly is, so you have the authority inside of you and the permission inside of you to move forward with information that will guide you along the path that you're already now on. So let me paint this experience for you. You get up in the morning. You're doing your normal routine. You're going to work. You're talking to people. You're living your life. And then all of a sudden, something feels off. Yet, nothing has changed. And yet, everything feels different. This is where your mind cannot make sense of the feeling that you are having inside of your spirit, inside of your energy. And energy does live in the mind. But until you educate the mind to understand the energy of what you are experiencing, then it's like getting on and off highways that are in a figure 8 circle constantly with no roadmap, meaning it's confusion. And this is the moment when your awareness is outgrowing the structured life and normal routine that you are having now. This is the part where I will tell people you're living in two worlds. You're living in a world that is structured and routine to the best of its ability. But then you're living in a world of the unknown, of a feeling that feels expansive, yet you can't put your finger on what that feeling is. This is where ShelbyRADIO comes into the equation, because these are the topics to explore to get a baseline foundation of what is going on, to where you can move yourself into a deeper level of awareness, of education, to begin working the steps in the process. Because the moment your old life stops making sense, that is where you immediately should move into action to begin creating the life that you want, the life that your spiritual energy is moving you towards. But the in-between is a process of information, of energetic knowledge that your parts are seeking to help make sense of what is going on as you learn how to rebuild a life now in this new era that will make sense for you. Because we're moving out of the mind, we're moving into the heart, and that is where we're leading now. And it's a process. So it's like learning life all over again, but in a much better way, because it's a more fulfilling way to live inspired, because you're not thinking about having to do it. You are becoming what you say you've always wanted to embody. So let me put this very simply. You're not losing your life. You're outgrowing the version of it that you have been living in. Let me make that clear. You're not losing your life. You're outgrowing the version of what you were living in. And I am speaking very slowly to the unconscious part of you. I am putting this in kinesthetically in the body, so it lands, so it grounds within you, regardless of what level you're on in your journey of higher awareness, higher consciousness, higher spiritual awakening, however you want to term it. We all go through different layers at different times. So if you are finding that your values are shifting, what once was important to you is not really that important to you, or maybe vice versa, that's okay. You're learning new values. If your tolerance is shifting, that is okay. It's supposed to. We're not supposed to be tolerant of things that maybe we used to be tolerant of before, because maybe it's not appropriate anymore. And maybe that's why there's bigger problems on the planet, because maybe we've tolerated things that don't need to be tolerated. And also your awareness expands. So that awareness expanding is where you can't unsee what you have now seen. Because now you have a picture in your mind that it exists. So as you evolve, it's very important to get into a process, an educational process from someone who's walked the journey, because they have the information to keep you from bumping your head in places that may not be necessary. If you resonate with Shelby Radio, if you resonate with the content that I put out, you will probably resonate very highly with my spiritual school curriculum to take you through the process of moving through the steps that you need now that your life is not making sense and that you cannot unsee and go back to the life you had before. Know that it's there, and it's there to support you when you're ready. And it's on my website, ShelbyCarino.com. Now, this is a very important piece that I'm going to explain here. If you're still living in the old structure of life, and you're no longer aligned with what that structure is, then you're going to build tension in your world. And tension is discomfort. You're going to make your life uncomfortable. So your body feels it, your emotions feel it, your mind tries to fix it. And it's because you're trying to stay in a life that no longer fits you. Now, let me give you this quick little story. There's a beauty in having a relationship with someone, especially when they balance another side of you. In my relationship with Joe, I would say I'm more of the risk taker. I'm more of, living on faith. Let's take the chance. What do we have to lose? Whereas Joe is more methodical. He wants to sit back, think about it, make sure it's the right thing to do. And there is a balance in that between both of us. In my Pisces, with me being more of a risk taker, I'll just jump in and get it done. Well, I've had to learn how to slow down, how to listen to my intuition differently, because just because I feel it didn't mean I needed to jump on it immediately. But the ability for me to move is much quicker. And I've had to learn through Joe's balance of logic, slow down, analyze the situation a little more, make sure it's the right thing to do. By me being able to blend that in with my organic nature of taking a chance and with my faith when I'm ready to move forward, I have built a strong foundation of moving from old structures into new structures way easier. In our relationship, I'm the one that usually will go first. I'm the one that moves first in those big changes. Then Joe follows. And what's interesting is when I left my teaching job, December 17th of 2025, I had originally planned to not leave on that date. I was trying to extend it by a month or so. But the minute I put in my resignation, my timeline sped up within 2 weeks. And within those 2 weeks, it was as if everything in the old paradigm and structure of my teaching career that I've had my entire life was all downloading in one fell swoop. And I was getting bombarded with lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson in the old structure of a life that I had built around teaching with that routine. And I was being challenged on every single thing. So my body was feeling it. My emotions were feeling it. My mind was like, I can do this. I'm going to fix this. And yet, by the end of that 2 weeks, it was instilled and installed in me kinesthetically, wow, this is what it feels like to stay in a life that no longer fits you. And that learning was like gold. And once I moved through that, then guess what? It was Joe's turn. And now Joe is going through the same experience of retiring from what he does and giving himself permission to move forward into a life he's always wanted to live that he never has lived because earlier in his world, he became a father. He had to raise 2 boys. He had to be the breadwinner. He had to, constantly go and support, what he had created back then. And now that Joe and I are through this process of our union, our awakening, and we're at different levels of that, then we have different opportunities now coming in that even though they're great opportunities, we still have to get comfortable with walking away from an old structure of life to bring in the new structure. So it's been very eye-opening for me to watch Joe now walk through the moments in his life now that are old and no longer make sense to him. And yet you can tell that he's not aligned with it anymore. You can tell where he gets tension because there's discomfort in the transition and his body is reacting to that. His emotions are feeling it and his mind is trying to fix something. And I'm telling him, this no longer fits you. So we were at dinner the other night and he was telling me about stuff that was going on with some of his clients. And he's like, these problems just keep coming up. And I'm like, but that's your old pattern. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, when problems get created, then you get to go in and fix it. And when you get to go in and fix it, you get paid to fix it. And I said, but now those problems don't need to be created for you because you're moving away from having to fix those problems. So you're moving away from problems to fix it in order to create income because now you're over here creating no problems, nothing to fix, living in inspiration, and bringing in abundance differently. It was a reframe for him. We all go through this, depending on what layer of the onion we're peeling. And the deeper you get into your root, the more expansive that awareness becomes, which means the deeper the root is to pull out. Because now you're getting to the core issue of what was created in your life a long time ago that built that structure. So there's a human flaw, though, to this experience and why people try to go back to the old structure. They try to go back by ignoring it. Oh, this is not happening. They try to distract themselves from it happening. And then they try to just go back to, I'm just going to live a normal life. And yet it doesn't feel the same anymore. There's no joy in that. And some people try to go back to old conversations they used to have with people. They try to feel the same motivation. If I just get up and do this, I'll feel motivated. And that's forcing a routine that's no longer available to you. And if your mind keeps wanting to go back into that routine, that doesn't mean the body, the emotions, and the energy are okay with that routine because that routine existed maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 8 years ago, 2 years ago. And now it's null and void. Because Once you see it, and it is you expanding, once you see it, you don't get to go back to not seeing it. So I said to Joe, once you saw what your life could be outside of what you've done your entire life and what that was all linked to, you can't unsee that now, which means that God source of you and all that you're connected to is saying, it is time to walk away. It is time now for you to have everything you said you wanted. And now it's going to be a process to get there. Because awareness changes everything. And awareness, all of this is irreversible. You don't go back to it. You have to move forward. And it's really funny how hard it is to move forward when you're not used to moving forward. And this, though, becomes the beginning of real change. This is where you finally get to feel a relief in the force field, because there's a different truth coming in that is now vibrating with the authentic part of you and where you are headed. Now, as I close this out, I want you to know this doesn't mean you need to blow up your life overnight, okay? It's a process. And if you do not have my book, The Art of Process, I highly encourage you and support you to get that. You can find it on my website, ShelbyCarino.com, or it's on Amazon. This book will carry you through the process, especially as you move into the courses of my curriculum to get all of the energetic downloads. Because you don't want to blow up your life overnight. You want to do things slowly, methodically, in the new way and structure. So this is about understanding what's happening. That's the education. That's my curriculum. But the bonus to that is you're receiving the frequencies through the education, because I've been there. That's why I created it. So you're not lost. You're just in the transition more aligned. Okay? Very important information here. I even recommend you go back and listen to this episode again. And listen to it as many times as you need until you get that understanding that this isn't just about, oh, my awareness expanded, I feel everything, woohoo, and I'm just going to go out here and be free and be a fairy and live life and do whatever, and then you have no direction. Because that gets old and there's no plan. And the energy will just take you everywhere but where you're probably trying to get. Trust me, I have so many clients that have come to me airy-fairy and they're just like, I don't know what happened. And I'm like, yes, I know. I get it. So let's just now put you into the process. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is so much better. And I'm like, yeah. And your nervous system calms down. So what I want to tell you next is that the next phase after this moment of your old life stops making sense, and now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it, so you can't go back. This is where things start to shift in your relationships. And some of you may already understand what I'm saying because you're experiencing it. So follow me next week because I'm going to talk about the loneliness of awakening. Okay? All right. Woo! That was a big one. Follow me on Instagram at Shelby Carino. I have a lot of stuff that I put out there on Instagram that will lend your nervous system some calming effects as you go through this. And you just get to learn a whole lot more about me and everything that I have moved through and how I live my life within these transitions. And I live a good one. We all can. And it can be calm and peaceful. Okay? So until next week, take care, and I'll talk to you then.